Hello, everyone. I'm Kamraun.
And I'm Billy. Welcome to the HorseFrog podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors.
Today, we will be discussing Book 4, Chapter 23 of Memories of Ice, a novel in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This is part 1 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it's most definitely not a replacement to reading the books. Both Kamraun and I know that this series is the best fantasy story ever written, and we're approaching this from a purely fanboy point of view. Not going to be much critique here on Mr. Erikson. Just mostly other things we critique.
We'll be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those that haven't read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective book.
A quick warning, today's episode contains descriptions of adult topics and is not suitable for children.
Our show's listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate it. You can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at horsefrogproductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
Also, we would really like to hear from you, and we really do mean that, so send any feedback or comments that you have to contact@horsefrogproductions.com.
We received a note from Jeff, one of our listeners, regarding something we missed in relation to Mancy's cracked tooth. Quote, so Emancipor Reese broke a third tooth on olive pits, and Bacalane said that Mancy thinks olive pits have a deadly poison. I think Mancy was trying to kill himself to get out of working for Bacalane and Corball Broach in a way that they couldn't save him by stitching him back together. Because if he cut his throat, they might be able to fix that with some magic in someone else's throat. Just my thoughts on poor Mancy, end quote. And now that this is brought up, it seems so obvious that Bacalane did point it out that he thinks these are poisonous. Why would he logically be eating something he thinks are poisonous, other than to kill himself?
Well, in response to the fact that being put back together, it doesn't matter. I think they would rather have him poison himself. He's in whole. I mean, he'd be a lot easier to get to work for you when he's undead and in one piece, isn't he?
Yeah, but maybe he wouldn't be conscious. Maybe he wouldn't know what's going on at that point.
Well, that could be. Maybe none of that stuff that goes on in Deadhouse Gates was like, oh, I remember how I died nonsense. I'm sorry, that's not nonsense, I guess, to the people who are dead. I'm sorry, that's cold-blooded of me to say that, but not trying to disrespect our dead.
They were fairly hung up on the issue.
And I get it. Especially if it was horrible.
I died in the most terrible ways.
In the most terrible way. It's like, that's all you can think about, man. It's like, dude, okay, spend some time, man. Let it go. It's been a while.
Well, thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you reaching out and for listening.
Thanks, Jeff. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Chapter 23, Part 1. The chapter begins with an excerpt. Quote, were the Black Moranth a loquacious people, the history of Achievant Twist would be known. And were it known, from what preceded first mention of him following the alliance with the Malazan Empire, his sojourn during the Genebacan campaigns of that same empire, and of his life within the Moranth hegemony itself, one cannot but suspect that the tale would be worthy of more than one legend. End quote. And this is from Lost Heroes by Badark of Nathi. We've touched on how enigmatic the Moranth are earlier in this book, but I truly wish I knew more about this culture, and Twist in particular. Given this excerpt, it sounds like there could be entire storylines just around his exploits. Not quite Dasim Ultor level, but significant nonetheless.
I agree. Badark. I'm going to have to go back to this Badark. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I said it out loud. I envision a trilogy in the far future. I wish. I hope he would do something about the Moranth. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. It's one of the seeds that he's planted that we haven't seen too much exploration of yet. Maybe in the future, hopefully.
Yeah. Or maybe in the Elsawan stuff, possibly.
We get a little bit more of the Moranth in there, but I don't think it was as significant as I was hoping for.
Yeah. I remember something with some Moranth, but it was just kind of like they are here. Military. Nothing revealing.
Yeah, always at a distance. All right, Chapter 23. The Vision Mountains loomed to the west. Her back to the vertical root wall of a toppled tree, Picker drew her rain-cloak tighter against the chill. On her left, across the river, sat Seta. The city had proved closer to the mountains and to the river than the maps had indicated, which had been a good thing. Her gaze remained fixed on the path below, straining in search of the first smudge of motion. At least the rain had passed, though mist had begun to gather. She listened to the drip of water from the pine boughs on all sides. A boot squelched in mossy mud, then grated on granite. Pigger glanced over, nodded, then returned her attention to the trail. Perrin murmured, expect a while yet. They've considerable ground to cover. Pigger said, aye. Only Blend runs a fast point, sir. She has eyes like a cat. Perrin said, let's hope she doesn't leave the others behind then. Picker said she won't, then thought she'd better not. Perrin slowly crouched at her side. He said, I suppose we could have flown directly over the city and saved ourselves the trouble of checking it out on foot. Picker said, and if there'd been watchers, they'd have seen us. No need to second-guess yourself, Captain. We don't know what the Panyan Seers got for eyes in this land, but we'd be fools to think we were entirely alone. We're already risking big with thinking we can travel at night and not be detected. Perrin said, Quick Ben says it's the condors and nothing else, Lieutenant, and they only take to the sky during the day. So long as we keep under cover when the sun's out, we should be able to pull this off. Picker slowly nodded in the darkness and said, Spindle agrees. So do Blue Pearl and Shanks and Toes.
I'm sorry I have to interrupt here, but I love we have some names I recognize. Blue Pearl, Shank, and Toes. Toes is what I remember in particular. Blue Pearl is one that pops up I can't remember much. It's just the names stick with me.
I'm trying to remember if Blue Pearl has been mentioned before in the books. Was he one of the ones that was involved in healing Trots?
He might have been. I'm not sure.
Okay.
There's some other people mentioned there. I remember Blue Pearl popping up later. It's not that he's in there a lot. It's just a great name that just stands out. You're like, wow, this is really stands out. That Toes, and because I know Toes' story, dude, too well. It's just it's what it sounds like. It's as nasty as you think it's going to be.
Picker said, Captain, with us and just us bridge burners frog hopping with the Black Maranth, I'd have little concern. But since we're flying point on, Perrin cut in, shh, there, down below, saw something. Blend was her usual admirable self, moving like a shadow, vanishing entirely for 1, 2, 3 heartbeats, then reappearing 10 paces closer, zigzagging her way to where Picker and Perrin waited. Though neither officer had moved nor made a sound, Blend had somehow found them. Her teeth flashed white as she squatted down in front of them. Perrin muttered, very impressive. Are you here to report, or will you leave that to the man who's supposed to be doing that? Unless, of course, you've left Ansi and the rest stumbling lost half a league in your wake. Blend's smile disappeared. She said, no, sir. They're about 30 paces back. Can't you hear 'em? There, that was Spindle, his hair shirt snagging on a branch. And those steps out front, that's Ansi. He's bandy-legged, walks like an ape. Those clunks? Hedge. The quietest one of the lot is Deterin, oddly enough. Perrin said, you making this up, soldier? Because I don't hear a thing. Blend innocently said, no, sir. I love Blend. She's so funny, dude. Like, how quickly she comes up with this nonsense.
That's an absolute masterful answer, too. That's Blend. I love that. She's fantastic.
Picker wanted to reach out and cuff the woman. She growled, go down and find them, Blend. She thought, if they're that loud, they've lost the trail, you idiot. Not that they are. Not that they have. Perrin stuck you right sharp and you don't like it. Fine. Picker said, now. Blend sighed and said, aye, Lieutenant. They watched her slither and slide her way back down to the path, then vanish. Perrin grunted and said, she almost had me there. Picker glanced over. She said, she thinks she's done just that. Perrin said, that's right, she does. She said nothing, then grinned and thought, damn, I think you're our captain now. Finally, we found a good one. And this reminds me of how adept Perrin was when handling the bridge burners stealing the table from Brood. He truly has some great leadership capabilities.
Oh, yeah. That was the moment earlier with the table where he made friends with Picker in a way when I think they realized that we like this guy. But I think this is kind of like, is this the moment where they kind of, in particular, I know Picker does, but the other guys kind of start realizing that, man, this guy's the man. He's our man.
Let's think back. There's been a couple of things. You're right, the table, Picker begrudgingly acknowledged how Perrin beat them there.
Mm.
And then in the Barghast camp, she was impressed with how he handled the situation. And then they started to talk about covering for him with the rest of the crew. If they were thinking of any smack talk or mutiny type discussions, Blend and Picker were going to go deal with them.
Right.
And then this is, I think, the third instance, where it's finally cemented.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, yeah, okay. They can get him, but he's one of them. It's like he's truly one of them now.
It was very Whiskey Jack reaction from him.
Yeah, well spotted, sir.
Perrin said, here they come. They were a match to Blend, or close enough to make little difference. Flowing silent, weapons bound, armor muffled. They watched Ansi raise a hand, halt those following with a gesture, then inscribe a circle in the air with his index finger. The squads dispersed to the sides, each one seeking a place of cover. The patrol was done. Ansi made his way up to where Perrin and Picker waited. Before he arrived, Quick Ben slipped down to join the two officers. Under his breath, he said, Captain, I've been talking with Twist's second. Perrin said, and? Quick Ben said, and the Maranth is worried, sir. about his commander. That killer infection's moved up past the shoulder. Twist only has a few weeks left, and he's living with a lot of pain right now. Hood knows how he stays in control. And quick reminder, that's because apparently he got grabbed by a spirit.
Yeah.
And then it's been moving up his arm slowly. It looks like dead, withered flesh.
Yeah, it's taken him. Ugh, that sounds awful.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Going back to Lord of the Rings, it does in a way remind me of, in the movie, The Return of the King, that one, I don't even want to misplace it. It was the pale looking, it wasn't an Uruk-hai, it was like an orc of some type.
Yeah.
He had a hand that was damaged. Remember?
Yeah.
He was leading the assault on, was it Minas Tirith?
Well, don't even get me started. Yes, on something. One of those assaults in that, the many assaults in that movie. Oh my word. Just look at the pale, just say the pale one, because I think that was the pale Uruk-hai, as a matter of fact. Or something like that with the, probably pull it up.
Okay, the orc officer Gothmog
All right.
led the assault on Minas Tirith.
Right on. I'm going to have to go look at Gothmog.
Gothmog had a limp hand.
Oh, yeah, that old boy, okay. Did he look at Gothmog's hand?
It's not black and withered, but it was damaged. He didn't have use of it. It looked like he'd had some issues with it in the past.
He had something happen to it, yeah.
Yeah. Derek, if you're listening, we did due diligence this time.
Yes, please forgive us, sir.
Perrin sighed and said, all right, we'll resume conversation on that subject later. Let's hear Ansi now. Quick Ben said, right. Ansi arrived, settled down in front of them. Picker handed him a flask and he took it, swallowed a half-dozen mouthfuls of wine, handed it back, then cleared both nostrils with explosive snorts, then wiped his mustache and spent another few moments grooming and patting it down. Perrin warned, if you start washing your armpits next, I'll kill you. Once I get over the nausea, that is. So you visited Seta. What did you see, Sergeant? Man, that is a little too familiar from Ansi.
Yeah.
No shame, just right in front of everybody, blowing his nose. Oh, it's gross.
It's disgusting, dude. I'd expect this from the Bowls, sure, but not from one of these people.
Yeah. This is something you see in Mottwood, probably.
Yeah.
Ansi said, yes, sir, Captain. Seta. A ghost city, damned eerie. All those empty streets, empty buildings, feast piles. Perrin asked, feast what? Ansi said, feast piles, in the squares. Big mounds of burnt bone and ash. Human. Feast piles. Oh, and huge birds' nests on the city's 4 towers. Blend climbed close to one. Perrin said, she did? Ansi said, well, closer anyway. We'd noticed the guano on the tower sides when the sun's light was still clinging up high. Anyway, there's those mountain vultures bedded down in them. Quick Ben cursed. He asked, and Blend's sure she wasn't seen? Ansi said, absolutely, wizard. You know Blend. We kept to blocking lines of sight just in case, which wasn't easy. Those towers were well placed, but those birds had bedded down for real. Those condors, they keep coming up, and they're being pretty heavily built up in the lead up to this confrontation at Coral.
Yeah, I had forgotten about this build up, and it's kind of funny. This is Lord of the Rings reference. It's kind of like our sprint to Mordor here at this bit, isn't it?
Okay, this is random chance.
It's your fault, Derek.
Multiple Lord of the Rings references have come up this episode, completely not planned.
I know it. It is so not planned. If people
we need to stay away from this topic.
I know it. If people understood how we work this stuff, it's like, kind of like, you know, how we do our things. Like, that's so funny because all this stuff's already here. I'm like, get out of here, dude. It's already here. We've already hit this topic 3 or 4 times. It's like, good God. Okay, I'll try to go easy on the Lord of the Rings references. I'm not promising anything. It's on fire now.
All right. Quick Ben asked, see any great ravens? Ansi blinked and said, no, why? Quick Ben said, nothing. But the rule holds. Trust nothing in the sky, Ansi. Be sure everyone knows and remembers that, right? Ansi said, aye, as you say, wizard. Perrin asked, anything else? Ansi shrugged and said, no, not a thing. Seta's dead as dead gets. Marik's probably the same. Perrin said, never mind Marik. We're bypassing Marik. He had Picker's fullest attention with that. She asked, just us, Captain? Quick Ben said, we're flying point all the way. Ansi growled something under his breath. Perrin ordered, speak clearly, Sergeant. Ansi said, nothing, sir. Perrin said, let's have it, Ansi. Ansi said, well, just Hedge and Spindle and the other sappers, Captain. Been complaining about that missing crate of munitions. They were expecting to get resupplied at Marik. They'll squeal, sir. Picker saw Perrin glance at Quick Ben, who scowled and said, I forgot to have a word with Hedge. Sorry, I'll get right on it. Ansi said, the thing is, we're undersupplied, and that's the truth of it. If we run into trouble, Picker muttered, really, Sergeant, When you've burned the bridges behind you, don't go starting a fire on the one in front of you. Tell those sappers to stiffen their spines. If we get into a situation where the 15 or so available cussers and 30 or 40 sharpers aren't enough, we're just one more feast pile anyway. To me, 15 cussers sounds like a lot. I wonder exactly how many munitions would make them feel comfortable. All of them?
Yeah, and that might not even be enough for those fellas. They're a nervous bunch. And I'm assuming it just comes from handling said munitions that makes them a kind of antsy bunch. I mean, no offense, antsy, but yeah, they are antsy. And I'm assuming they all get that way from being here. But I'm assuming you'd want a bunch of them because we're running into 3 more armies, right?
Yeah. I kind of see it from their perspective. It's a force multiplier for them. It helps even the odds, especially when mages are involved or superior numbers on the enemy side.
Oh, yeah.
If you have concern over not having enough, then you would be hesitant to use the ones you have, and it could possibly get you killed. Because if there's any hesitation, then that's opportunity for the enemy to kill you.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Perrin said, "Chat's over. Quick, get the Moranth ready. We're making one more jump tonight. I want us within sight of the River Erin come the dawn. Picker, check the cairns one more time, please. I don't want them obvious. We give ourselves away now and things will get hot." Picker said, "Aye, sir." Perrin said, "All right, let's move." He watched as his soldiers scrambled. A few moments later, he sensed a presence and turned. Twist had come to stand beside him. He said, "Captain Perrin." Perrin said, "Yes?" Twist said, "I would know if you blessed the Barghast gods, in Capustan or perhaps thereafter." Perrin frowned. He said, "I was warned they might ask, but no, I've not been approached." Twist was silent for a moment, then he said, "Yet you acknowledge their place in the Pantheon." Perrin said, "I don't see why not." Twist asked, "Is that a yes, Captain?" Perrin said, "All right, yes. Why? What's wrong?" Twist said, "Nothing is wrong. I will die soon, and I wish to know what will await my soul." Perrin asked, "Have the Barghast shouldermen finally acknowledged that the Moranths share the same blood?" Twist said, "Their pronouncements one way or the other are without relevance." Perrin asked, "Yet mine are?" Twist said, "You are the master of the deck." Perrin asked, "What caused the schism, Twist, between the Moranth and the Barghast?" Twist slowly raised his withered arm and said, "Perhaps in another realm this arm is hale, whilst the rest of me is shrunken and lifeless. Perhaps it already feels the clasp, firm and strong, of a spirit, who now but waits for my complete passage into that world." Perrin said, "An interesting way of viewing it." Twist said, "Perspective, Captain. The Barghast would see us withered and lifeless, to be cut away." Perrin said, "While you see it the other way round?" Twist shrugged. He said, "We do not fear change. We do not resist it. The Barghast must accept that growth is necessary, even if painful. They must learn what the Moranth learned long ago, when we did not draw our swords and instead spoke with the Tist Edur, the gray-skinned wanderers of the seas. Spoke to discover they were as lost as we were, as weary of war, as ready for peace." Quick reminder that the Tist Edur were the people that were carved on the boats as having chased them across the oceans.
Yeah.
So there's a generational hatred built in with the Barghast and the Tist Edur. So for the Moranth to go and actually speak with them, you can kind of see why this could cause a schism. Now, people do have to be willing to change with the times, and failure to do so will see you left behind. In the context of the Malazan books, think about how the Barghast are being surpassed by the Malazan Empire. Do you really think they would have a chance of resisting the full attention of a Malazan campaign? I think it's doubtful.
I agree with you. If Lasine were to turn her eyes on the Barghast, I don't believe they'd stand a chance. And I'm going to add a caveat here so fellow fans don't rush to hurt me on this one. The Barghast appear to be exceptional one-on-one fighters, but they don't play as a team. They killed a bunch of each other in this book, just trying to settle a bunch of old scores before we could even unite. So the Malazan Marine being a team player, while everyone's sitting around squabbling amongst themselves, they could be hit and taken over. And so if they ever fought together, that would be a different story.
Yeah, it's a similar scenario to what we saw in Seven Cities, with the tribes coming together and they could not stand up against the Malazan Marines. Just couldn't do it.
Yeah, just can't do it.
Perrin asked, "Tist Edur?" Twist said, "Children of the Shattered Warren. A fragment had been discovered in the vast forest of Moranth that would become our new homeland. Kurald Emerlon, the true face of Shadow. There were so few Tist Edur left, we chose to welcome them. The last of them are gone now from Moranth Wood, long gone, but their legacy is what has made us as we are." Perrin said, "Achievement. It may take me a while to make sense of what you've just described. I have questions." As do I. I wonder how the Moranth changed in this scenario.
Well, they apparently learned a lot of discipline from the previous conversation of us just talking about learning to fight together and work together has done something for them.
It's almost like their perspective on the world changed.
Yeah, like you said, it takes a lot to stop fighting somebody that's been chasing you, even though it's not these same guys exactly. Let's say you run into a group of your enemy, and instead of going right for the kill or trying to fight them or something like that, you say, let's talk, and so that's truly unheard of a lot in this world. And so, especially amongst the Barghast. And I can see, like you said, how the Barghast could be offended about that, but the Moranth, by doing so, have gained an advantage.
Yeah. Twist shrugged again and said, "We did not slay the Tistadur. In Barghast eyes, that is our greatest crime. I wonder, however, if the elder spirits, now gods, see it in a similar light." Perrin murmured, "They've had a long time to think. Sometimes that's all that's needed. The heart of wisdom is tolerance, I think." This comment from Perrin reminded me of our ongoing theme of perspective and how it is changing our views on characters as we have grown older since the first time we read these books.
Yeah.
We're kind of looking at things a little bit differently now.
Yeah, our perspective does change and change how you look at things also.
Twist said, "If so, Captain, then you must be proud." Perrin asked, "Proud?" Twist slowly turned away as soft calls announced the troop was ready. He said, "I now return to Dujek One Arm." He paused, then added, "The Malazan Empire is a wise empire. I think that rare and precious. And so I wish it and you well." Perrin watched Twist stride away. It was time to go. He thought, tolerant. Maybe. Keep that word in mind, Ganoiz. There's a whisper that it will prove the fulcrum in what's to come. Do you think that he's thinking that he needs to be tolerant of the survivors of the Panyan Daman?
That could very well be.
I wonder what else that could apply to if it's not.
I would have no idea. I think you're right.
Krupp's mule carried him swiftly up the embankment, through a press of marching Marines on the road, who scattered from its path, then down the other side and out onto the plain. Shouts and helpful advice followed him. He exclaimed, "Brainless beast! Blind, stubborn, braying creature of the abyss! Stop!" Krupp cries. "Stop! No, not that way!" The mule charged a tilting path back round, fast-trotted smartly for the nearest clan of white-faced Barghast. A dozen savagely painted children raced out to meet them. The mule balked in sudden alarm, pitching Krupp forward onto its neck. The animal then wheeled and slowed to a placid walk, tail switching its rump. Krupp managed to right himself with a succession of grunts. The Barghast children jogged up alongside him, and he exclaimed, "Exercise is madness! Witness these frightening urchins, already so muscle-bound as to laugh with stupid delight at Krupp's woeful fate. The curse of vigor and strain has addled them. Dear Krupp, forgive them as befits your admirable nature, your amiable equanimity, your effortlessly estimable ease among the company of those sadly lacking in years. Ah, you poor creatures, so short of leg, yet self-deluded into expressions witlessly wise. You strut in step with this confounded mule, and so lay bare the tragic truth. Your tribe is doomed." Krupp pronounces, "Doomed!" He heard someone shout, "They understand not a word, man of lard!" Krupp twisted round to see Hitan and Kafal riding to join him. The woman was grinning. Man, I'll tell you what, this descriptor of man of lard really got me good. One of our dogs is, shall we say, rather portly, even on weight management food. I've adopted the nickname "You Fat Lard" from Napoleon Dynamite in referring to said dog. And this descriptor of Krupp really hits close to home. It's hilarious.
That's too funny.
Hitan said, "Not a word, Daru, and a good thing, too. Else they tear your heart from your chest at such damnations." Krupp said, "Damnations? Dear woman, Krupp's deadly temper is to blame. His white-hot rage that so endangers all around him. It is this beast, you see." Hitan interrupted, "Not even worth eating. What think you, brother?" Kafal said, "Too scrawny." Krupp said, "Nonetheless, Krupp pleads for forgiveness on behalf of his worthy self and the conversely worthless beast he rides. Forgive us, somewhat longer-legged spawn of Humbrel Tar, we beg you." Hitan said, "We've a question for you, man of lard." Krupp said, "You need only ask, and Krupp shall answer, shining with truth, his words smooth as oil to scent your unblemished skin there. Just above the left breast, perhaps. Krupp has in his possession," Hitan interrupted, "no doubt. And were you to carry on, this war would be over before I had the chance to ask you the question. Now shut up, Daru, and listen. Look, if you will, upon the Malazan ranks on yonder road, the tent-covered wagons, the few foot-dragging companies who walk alongside them and between them, raising skyward clouds of dust." Krupp cut in, "Dear lass, you are one after Krupp's own heart. Pray resume this non-interrogative question. At length, wax your words in the thickest candle so that I may light an unquenchable flame of love in its honor. Hitan said, I said, look, Daru, observe. Do you find nothing odd about our allies at present? Krupp said, at present, past, and no doubt future, too. Krupp asserts. Malazan mysteries, yes. Peculiar people, Krupp proclaims. Discipline in said march approaching disheveled dissolution. Dust rising to be seen for leagues, yet what is seen? Well, not but dust. Hitan growled, just my point. Krupp said, and a sharp one it is. Hitan said, so you'd notice then. Krupp said, noticed what, my dear? The sumptuous curves of yourself? How could Krupp not notice such wondrous, if slightly barbaric, beauty? As a prairie flower, Hitan said, about to kill you. Grinning. Krupp said, a prairie flower, Krupp observes, such as blooms on prickly cactus. Hitan said, wear the misstep, man of lard. Krupp said, Krupp's wares are without misstep, for he wears wariness. Well, After a moment, Hitan said, this morning I watched one company of Marines strike the tents of 3 companies, all through the Malazan camp, 1 for 3, again and again. Krupp said, aye, one can count on the Malazans. Hitan rode closer, reached out and closed a hand on Krupp's cloak collar. She half dragged him from his saddle, her smile broadening. She hissed, man of lard, when I bed you, soon, this mule will need a travois to carry what's left of you. Dragging everyone along in your dance of words is a fine talent, but come tonight, I will pump the breath from your lungs. I will leave you speechless for days to come, and I will do all this to prove who is the master between us. Now, another utterance from you, and I won't wait until tonight. I will give these children and everyone else a show that you, Daru, will never live down. Ah, I see by your bulging eyes that you understand. Good. Now stop clenching that mule with your knees. The beast hates it. Settle in that saddle as if it was a horse, for it believes itself to be so. It notes how everyone else rides, notes how the horses carry their charges. Its eyes never rest. Have you not noticed? This is the most alert beast this world has ever seen. And don't ask me why. There, my words are done. Until tonight, man of lard, when I will see you melt. She released him. Dude, he's met his match here. And we'll see how slippery the eel can be in his attempts to escape this situation.
Is he trying to escape this situation? He started this mess.
I think there's a mismatch in what's going on here. He enjoys the verbal jujitsu,
right,
while she appears to enjoy the actual jujitsu. So
yes.
There's a physicality component missing
Right.
from his side of the argument that she's going to enforce if she gets a hold of him.
Okay.
So I'm curious to see where this leads.
Yeah, as am I.
I am impressed with how observant Hitan is, though. Between noticing the reduced numbers of Malazans and the behavior of the mule with its eyes darting everywhere, she's really paying attention to what's going on around her.
Yeah, she's very observant. And this is not the only time the observant mule or something with the mule, it's either asleep or observing, I'm not sure. It's just like there's something very relevant about the mule. I don't know what's going to be the big reveal here. There's going to have to be something, I think. I may be wrong, but I feel there's going to be a big reveal about this mule.
If there ever is.
Yeah, there may not be, but there's some odd.
I don't know if we'll get that.
Yeah, it's too funny.
Gasping, Krupp dropped back onto the saddle. He opened his mouth to say something, then snapped it shut. Kafal grunted, then said, he learns fast, sister. She snorted and said, you all do, brother. The two rode away. Staring after them, Krupp removed his handkerchief from a sleeve and patted the sweat from his brow. He said, dear me. Dear, dearest me. You heard, mule? It is Krupp who is doomed. Doomed! See, I think he's pretty worried about what's about to happen to him.
He could very well be.
Whiskey Jack studied the 2 women standing before him, then said, permission denied. One of the Marines reiterated, she ain't here, sir. We got no one to watch, right? Whiskey Jack said, you will not rejoin your company, soldiers. You stay with me. Any other issues you wanted to discuss? No? Dismissed. The 2 Marines exchanged a glance, then saluted and marched off. From a half-dozen paces away, Artanthos said, sometimes it comes back and sinks its teeth into you, doesn't it? Whiskey Jack eyed the man and asked, what does? Artanthos said, Dasim Ultor's style of command. Dasim Ultor's style of command.
I'm laughing and I've missed it. My children. I'm so sorry. Dasim Ultor.
Well done. That's a good one.
Apologize. Oh.
Soldiers given permission to think, to question, to argue. Whiskey Jack said, making us the best army this world has ever seen, Standard Bearer. Artanthos said, nonetheless. Whiskey Jack said, there is no nonetheless. It is the reason why we're the best. And when time comes for the hard orders, you'll see the discipline. You may not have seen it here and now, but it's there, under the surface, and it's solid. Artanthos shrugged and said, as you say. Whiskey Jack resumed leading his horse to the kraal. On all sides, soldiers hurried to pitch tents and prepare cook fires as the sun set. They were, he could see, a weary lot. Too many double-time shifts through the day. Then the added bell's worth of marching through the dusk. He realized he'd need to tail that off over at least 3 days, then add 2 more bells of stationary rest before reaching Coral, to give his infantry sufficient recovery time. An exhausted army was a defeated army. A stabler collected Whiskey Jack's horse, and the commander set off towards Dujek's tent. A squad of Marines sat on their packs in front of the entrance, helms and armor on, still wearing the scarves that had covered their faces against the day's dust. None rose at Whiskey Jack's arrival. He sarcastically growled, "Carry on," as he strode between the soldiers and entered the tent. Within, Dujek was on his knees. He'd thrown a map down on the carpeted floor and was studying it by lantern light, muttering under his breath. Whiskey Jack pulled a camp chair close and settled onto it. He said, "So, the divided army divides yet again." Dujek glanced up, his bushy brows knitting into a momentary frown before he resumed his perusal of the map. He asked, "My bodyguard outside?" Whiskey Jack said, "Aye." Dujek said, "They're a miserable lot at the best of times, and this isn't exactly best." Whiskey Jack stretched out his legs, wincing as old pain awoke once more in the left one. He said, "They're all Unton, aren't they? Haven't seen them around much of late." Dujek said, "You haven't seen them around because I told them to get scarce. Calling them miserable was being kind. They're not of the host, and as far as they're concerned, they'll never be, and damn, I agree with them. Anyway, they wouldn't have saluted you even if we wasn't splitting into 2 commands. It's a struggle them saluting even me, and I'm the only one they're sworn to protect." Protect or hold hostage?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's got me wondering, given they're from Unta, and that's obviously sent by Lysine to protect him.
Right. Well, maybe they're just there to make sure they do things correctly.
Yeah. One thing I did remember from Deadhouse Gates, though, I believe there was mention of not saluting superior officers in the field for fear of assassination attempts.
Yeah, and I can see that because I was going to make a joke about snipers here because I think that's they kind of do that in some places, right? If they have fear of snipers, you don't be saluting, so you give it away.
Mm-hmm. Whiskey Jack said, "We've got a tired army out there." Dujek said, "I know. With Opan's luck, the pace will return to sanity once we're on the other side of Marek. That's 3 days of loose reins and stretched necks to Coral. We've managed with less." Whiskey Jack said, "Managed to get mauled, you mean? That run to Mott damn near finished us, Dujek. We can't afford a repetition. There's a lot more to lose this time." Dujek leaned back and began rolling up the map. He said, "Have faith, friend." Whiskey Jack glanced around, noted the cross-slung backpack resting against the center pole, the old short sword in its equally ancient scabbard draped over it. He asked, "So soon?" Dujek said, "You ain't been paying attention. We've been peeling off without a hitch every night since the divide. Do the roll call, Whiskey Jack. You're 6,000 short. Come the morning, you've got your command back. Well, slightly under half of it, anyway. You should be dancing round the pole." Whiskey Jack said, "No. I should be the one flying out tonight, not you, Dujek. The risk," Dujek growled. "Precisely, the risk. You never seem to realize, but you're more important to this army than I am. You always have been. To the soldiers, I'm just a one-armed ogre in a fancy uniform. They damned well see me as a pet." Whiskey Jack studied Dujek's battered, unadorned armor and grinned sourly. Dujek said, "A figure of speech. Besides, it says the Empress has commanded." Whiskey Jack said, "So you keep saying." Dujek said, "Whiskey Jack, 7 cities is devouring itself. The whirlwind has risen over blood-soaked sands. The adjunct has a new army and it's on its way, but too late for the Malazan forces already there. I know you were talking retirement, but look at it from Lysine's point of view. She has 2 commanders left who know 7 cities, and, before long, only 1 seasoned army, stuck here on Genabakis. If she has to risk one of us in the Panion War, it has to be me." Whiskey Jack said, "She plans on sending the host to 7 cities? Hood take us, Dujek." Dujek said, "If the new adjunct falls to Shaik, what choice does she have? More important, she wants you in command." Whiskey Jack slowly blinked. He asked, "What about you?" Dujek grimaced. He said, "I don't think she expects me to survive what's about to come. And if by some miracle I do, well, the campaign in Corel is in shambles." Whiskey Jack said, "You don't want Corel." Dujek said, "What I want doesn't matter, Whiskey Jack." Real quick, Corel lies southeast from the island of Malaz and Quan Tali. So the Empire is going to have campaigns on 3 continents, Genabakis, 7 cities, and then Corel. That's Too many fronts. Can't sustain that much.
No, you can't. And Lacine seems to be really ahead of the curve on this stuff. Is that where we're assuming the crippled god's got his sights set?
I don't know how much of this has to do with the crippled god.
I know. I don't either.
Do you remember any part of the Seven Cities Uprising mentioning the crippled god? Because, I mean, really, they're delving into that in this book more than anything, right?
They are, but did the stuff with Tremolor have anything to do with the crippled god? Or is it just an event?
I don't think so. I think it was just an event.
Yeah, and so I'm like you. I don't think until here much has been said. Has been hints at some things. I'm really curious why she is such an expansionist here. I don't think it's necessarily for control. I may be wrong, but...
Yeah, you don't really get much on Corel until Stonewielder, the Esselmont book.
Right.
That's where a lot of that takes place. I don't remember a ton of Malazan stuff there, though.
No, I don't either.
Whiskey Jack said, and Lacine would say the same of me, I gather. Dujek, as I said before, I intend to retire. To disappear if need be. I'm done with all this. Some log cabin in some frontier kingdom, a long way from the Empire. Dujek said, and a wife swinging a pot at your head. Marital, domestic bliss. You think Corlat will settle for that? Whiskey Jack smiled at Dujek's gentle mockery. He said, it's her idea, not the pot swinging. That's your particular nightmare, Dujek. But all the rest. All right, not a log cabin. More like a remote, wind-battered keep in some mountain fastness. A place with a forbidding view. Dujek drawled, well, you can still plant a small vegetable garden in the courtyard. Wage war against weeds. All right, that's our secret then. Too bad for Lacine. Should I survive Coral, I'll be the one taking the host back to Seven Cities. And should I not survive, well, I won't be in a position to care one whit about the Malazan Empire. Whiskey Jack said, you'll scrape through, Dujek. You always do. Dujek said, a weak effort, but I'll take it. So, share one last meal with me? The Moranth won't be here till after the midnight bell. It was an odd choice of words, and they hung heavy between the two old friends for a long moment. With a faint smile, Dujek said, one last meal before I leave, I meant, until Coral. Whiskey Jack said, I'd be delighted. The river Erin became Ortnall's cut 20 or more leagues from Coral Bay, the river's red water plunging into a deep chasm and reputedly turning oddly black and impenetrable. Coral Bay seemed to be but a continuation of that chasm. The cut was not yet visible to Perrin, even from this height, yet he knew it was there. Scouts from the flight of Black Moranth, now winging him and his bridge-burners down the river's path, had confirmed its nearness. Sometimes the maps were wrong, after all. Fortunately, most of the Black Moranth had been positioned in the Vision Mountains for months, making nightly sorties to study the lie of the land, to formulate the best approach to Coral in anticipation of this moment. They would likely reach Erin's mouth before dawn, assuming the stiff, steady winds rushing towards the Godswalk Mountains continued unabated, and the following night would see them skimming over the cut's black waters towards Coral itself. Perrin thought, and once there, we work out what the Seers planned for us. Work it out and, if possible, dismantle it. And once that's done, it'll be time for me and Quick Ben. Man, we're getting close to this battle. I hadn't realized just how close we're getting until now.
I know it. And I forget always with this, that one thing he does consistently, especially at this point in the book, he's setting us up for some amazing end battle thing craziness, then with a great conclusion, followed by a great explanatory epilogue, setting us up for the next volume. He's great, man. I love this guy.
Yes.
It's always, when we get here toward the end, you're like, oh my gosh, we're close to the end already. I can't remember because there's so much stuff happens. I know it's going to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's going to be mean.
Yeah. You remember how painful the end of Deadhouse Gates was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of likable characters in this army.
There. I think there's a lot more likable characters in this army, because we've got to know some of them, and I've laughed with a lot of them.
Man, I don't know. You had Bolt. You had all of the Wiccans, the Marines.
Deadhouse Gates is magnificent, dude. I'm not slighting those folks. It's just a different style of humor. It's the Wiccan humor is so different than the Malazan humor. Here it's been kind of like, pretty much, it's one of the purest Malazan stuff you get sometimes here that we're really where I think this kind of really sets us up for some of the more conversational stuff with our favorite bridge burners. It's probably learned in this book, I think. Not learned, but the way he writes them. Yeah,
it's kind of the first book where you see the bridge burners interacting with each other on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Because even in Gardens of the Moon, they were kind of strangers.
Yeah, they're strangers to us, and we didn't see them. I mean, just what little bit that you saw them, they were always kind of held at arm's length, like so much of everything else.
Yeah, true. Some unseen signal had the corals plunging earthward, angling towards the river's western bank. Perrin gripped hard the bony projections on the Black Moranth's rider's armor. the wind whistling through his helm's visor to shriek in his ears. Gritting his teeth, Perrin ducked his head low behind the warrior as the dark ground swiftly rose to meet them. A snap of wings less than a man's height above the boulder-strewn shore slowed them abruptly, and then they were slipping silently along the strand. Perrin twisted around to see the others in single file behind them. He tapped a finger against the rider's armor, leaned forward. He asked, "What's happening?" The Black Morath said, "There is carrion ahead," the words strangely clicking, a sound Perrin knew he would never get used to. He asked, "You're hungry?" The chitin-armored warrior did not reply. Perrin thought, all right, so that was a little low. The stench of whatever lay on the shore ahead reached Perrin. He asked, "Do we have to do this? Is it the Quarrels who need to feed? Have we time, Moranth?" The Moranth said, "Our scouts saw nothing the night past, Captain. Never before has the river yielded such a creature. Perhaps that it has done so now is important. We shall investigate." Perrin relented. He said, "Very well." The quarrel beneath them angled to the right, up over the grassy embankment, then settled on the level ground beyond it. The others followed suit. Joints aching, Perrin released the saddle straps and cautiously dismounted. Quickben limped to his side and grumbled, "Abyss take me. Much more of this and my legs will fall off." Perrin asked, "Any idea what they found?" Quickben said, "Only that it stinks." Perrin said, "Some dead beast, apparently." A half-dozen Black Moranth had gathered around the lead rider. Clicks and buzzes were exchanged among them in rapid discussion. Then the officer, whose quarrel Perrin had been riding, gestured for the captain and the wizard to approach. The officer said, "The creature lies directly ahead. We would have you examine it as we shall. Speak freely, so that we might finally circle the truth and so know its hue. Come." Perrin glanced at Quickben, who simply shrugged. Perrin said, "Lead the way, then." The corpse lay among boulders high on the strand, 15 paces from the southward rushing water. Limbs twisted, revealing broken bones, some of them jutting through torn flesh. The figure was naked, bloated with decomposition. The ground around it seethed with crayfish, clicking and scraping, and here and there locked in titanic battle over possession of the feast. A detail Perrin found amusing at first, then ineffably disturbing. His attention only momentarily drawn away from the body by the scavengers. He fixed his gaze once more on the figure. Quickben spoke a soft question to the Moranth officer, who nodded. The wizard gestured, and a muted glow rose from the boulders on all sides, illuminating the corpse. Perrin thought, "Hood's breath." He asked, "Is that Tistandi?" Quickben stepped closer, squatted, and was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "If he is, he's not one of Andamander Rake's people. No, in fact, I don't think he's Tistandi at all." Perrin frowned. He said, "He's damn tall, wizard. And those facial features, such as we can see." Quickben said, "His skin's too pale, Captain." Perrin said, "Bleached by water and sun." Quickben said, "No. I've seen a few Tistandi bodies, in Black Dog Forest, and in the swampland surrounding it. I've seen him in all sorts of conditions. Nothing like this. He's heat-swelled from the day, aye, and we have to assume he came from the river, but he's not waterlogged. Captain, have you ever seen a victim of Cirque sorcery?" Perrin said, "The Path of the Sky? Not that I recall." Quickben said, "There's one spell that bursts the victim from the inside out. Has to do with pressure, with violently altering it, even taking it away entirely, or as this looks like, increasing it outside the body 100-fold. This man was killed by implosive pressure, as if he'd been hit by a mage using Cirque. That sounds absolutely horrible."
Really nasty. Really nasty.
Perrin said, "All right." Quickben said, "Not all right, Captain. All wrong, in fact." Quickben looked up at the Moranth officer and said, "Circle the truth, you said. Okay, talk." The officer said, "Tistadur." Perrin thought, "The name. Oh yes, Twist spoke of them. Some old war-shattered warren." Quickben said, "Agreed, though I've never seen one before." The officer said, "He did not die here." Quickben said, "You're right, he didn't. And he didn't drown either." The Moranth nodded and said, "He did not drown, nor was he killed by sorcery, for the smell is wrong." Quickben said, "Aye, no taint of magic. Keep circling." The Moranth said, "The Blue Moranth, who ply the seas and sink nets into the deep trenches. Their catch arrives upon the deck already dead. This effect concerns the nature of pressure." Quickben said, "I imagine it does." The Moranth said, "This man was killed by the reverse, by appearing suddenly in a place of great pressure." Quickben said, "Aye." He sighed and glanced out over the river. The officer said, "There's a trench, a crevasse. Out there you can see it by the current's upstream pull out in the middle. Ortnall's cut reaches this far, unseen, cracking the riverbed. That trench is deep." Perrin said, "Hold it. You're suggesting that this Tistadur appeared, suddenly, somewhere down in that underwater trench. The only way that could be true is if he'd opened a warren in order to get there. That's a seriously complicated means of suicide." Quickben said, "Only if he'd intended to do as he did. Only if he was the one who opened the warren in the first place. If you want to kill someone nastily, you throw them, push them, trip them, whatever, into an inimical portal. I think this poor bastard was murdered, Perrin asked. By a high mage of Cirque? Quickben said, more like a high mage of Ruse, the path of the sea, Captain. The Malazan Empire is a seafaring empire, or at least its roots are seafaring. You won't find a true high mage of Ruse in all the empire. It's the hardest warrant to master. Quickben turned to the Moranth. He asked, and among your blue Moranth, your silver or gold, any high mages of Ruse? The warrior shook his helmed head and said, nor do our annals reveal any in our past. I think that's a new warren, Ruse, the path of the sea.
I think you're right. I believe you're right.
I remember this Tist Edur showing up here, truly perplexing me on my first read-through. I was super confused by this whole scenario.
Yeah, it is a confusing scenario. And the other thing that kind of gets me is only upon the reread, especially us talking through it, you see that just that conversation between Perrin and Twist kind of planted the seeds about what we were going to find here. Them talking about the Tist Edur.
Yeah, and then this Tist Edur showing up here is one of those seeds that Mr. Erikson planted that doesn't appear for a while.
Yeah.
And especially if it's your first read through, you're going to forget about it. So just try and make a mental note because it will help tie some timelines together in a later book. I don't want to ruin anything, but if you're into all the little nerdy details like Billy and I are, this is one of those big ones that you're like, oh,
yeah.
But right now makes no sense.
It's too funny.
Quickben casually asked, and how far back do those annals go? Returning his attention to the corpse. The officer said, 7 tens. Quickben asked, decades? The officer said, centuries. Real quick. The way this guy said the time duration, 7 tens, my youngest, I keep talking about the stuff he does.
Right.
The way he refers to time, I'll ask him, how long did that take? He goes, some seconds. I love it, dude.
Oh, my word. You need to see, there's a Hitchcock comedy called The Trouble with Harry, and it comes down to the saving grace of a little boy and his description of time. And his description of time is not correct.
Okay.
So it's really funny because he gets yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He has the trouble with those, past, present, and future. And so we found a body in the woods. He's been buried, reburied, unburied, cleaned, buried again, and unburied and cleaned again because everyone thinks they've killed this man accidentally. But the little boy describing to the sheriff at the end talks about finding the guy today, meaning yesterday. But he says yesterday, so it's hard to describe other than the fact that that tweaks those memories for me. Little boys telling of time, it's very universal and very funny apparently to all of us at all times.
Oh yeah, definitely. Quickben straightened and said, so, a singular killer. Perrin murmured, then why do I now believe that this man was killed by another Tist Edur? The Moranth and Quickben turned to him, were silent. Perrin sighed then said, a hunch, I suppose, a gut whisper. Quickben said, Captain, don't forget what you've become. He fixed his attention once more on the corpse and said, another Tist Edur. All right, let's circle this one too. The Moranth said, there is no objection to the possibility. Quickben said, the Tist Edur are of elder shadow. The Moranth said, within the seas, shadows swim. Kurald Emerlon, the warren of the Tist Edur, elder shadow, is broken and has been lost to mortals. Quickben's brows rose. He said, lost? Never found, you mean? Mienus, where Shadowthrone and Cantilian and the hounds dwell, the Moranth said, is not but a gateway. Perrin grunted and said, if a shadow could cast a shadow, that shadow would be Mienus. Is that what you two are saying? Shadowthrone rules the guardhouse? Quickben grinned and said, what a delicious image, Captain. Perrin muttered, a disturbing one. He thought, the hounds of shadow, they are the guardians of the gate. Damn, that makes too much sense to be in error. But the warren is also shattered, meaning the gate might not lead anywhere. Or maybe it belongs to the largest fragment. Does Shadowthrone know the truth? That his mighty throne of shadows is what? A castellan's chair? A gatekeeper's perch? My oh my, as Krupp would say. That's interesting. A new way of looking at Kurald Emerlon versus Mienus.
Well, the other thing is, too, I think, is this the first confirmation that I'd assume that they were in Shadowthrone, not in Mienus. They're saying he's basically the ruler of Mienus.
Mienus is the lower level, not the elder one. Kurald Emerlon's the elder one.
Right. It's like the mind. Like screw with your mind. Mostly what a lot of that stuff is. Well, that's Makra, never mind.
Yeah.
But with Shadowthrone, does he even, is he aware of this?
Good question. Who knows? That guy seems to know everything.
Yeah, I would assume he would know this. Yeah, you're right. It's too obvious.
Maybe that was their intention all along, was to guard the realm of shadow from getting penetrated. Who knows?
That could be.
Quickben's grin faded. He sighed and said, I think I see your point. The Tist Edur are active once more, by what we've seen here. They're returning to the mortal world. Perhaps they've reawakened the true throne of shadow, and maybe they're about to pay their new gatekeeper a visit. Perrin said, another war in the Pantheon. The crippled god's chains are no doubt rattling with his laughter. He rubbed at the bristle on his jaw and said, excuse me, I need some privacy. Carry on here if you like. I won't be long. He thought, I hope. He strode inland 20 paces, stood facing northwest, eyes on the distant stars. He thought, all right, I've done this before. Let's see if it works a second time. The transition was so swift, so effortless, that it left him reeling, stumbling across uneven flagstones in swirling, moat-filled darkness. Cursing, he righted himself. The carved images beneath his feet glowed faintly, cool and vaguely remote. It truly is awesome seeing him learning to master his powers.
Agreed. I've been really eager for this part here.
Perrin thought, so, I'm here. As simple as that. Now, how do I find the image I'm looking for? Raced? You busy at the moment? What a question. If you were busy, we'd all be in trouble, wouldn't we? Never mind. Stay where you are, wherever that is. That is for me to work out, after all. Not in the deck of dragons. I don't want the gateway, after all, do I? Thus, the elder deck. The deck of holds. The flagstone directly before him twisted into a new image, one he had not seen before, yet he instinctively recognized it as the one he sought. The carving was rough, worn, the deep grooves forming a chaotic web of shadows. Perrin felt himself being pulled forward, down into the scene. And that's a good stopping point.
Yeah.
We are going to stop there and pick up the chapter where we left off next week.
Nice.
For standout moments, Perrin's ability to earn the loyalty of the bridge burners, as displayed by Blend trying to trick him and him not making a big deal out of it.
It's really cool to see him grow and be this person that's, like I said, I think we finally got pretty much total acceptance with the bridge burners now.
Yeah. Learning more about Twist, the Moranth, and the differences between them and the Barghast. Like seeing that.
Fascinating. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Do a David Attenborough impression.
No, I'm trying to do the Leonard Nimoy, dude. I'm trying to do a Spock.
Oh, okay.
Fascinating, Captain. But it is. I love all that stuff. That's great stuff.
And then we got some additional little tidbits of information about the Tist Edur. That was good.
Dude, talk about your drip feed.
Yeah, it's like an IV drip at this point.
Yes, it's real drip.
Catelan's threats to shut Krupp up and how confounded he was after that threat. It was beautiful to see.
It's funny because at the same time, I love her look. It's like it's really like she's getting really turned on by this guy and his argumentative nature. It's like, she's like, shut up, I'm taking you right now. I'm going to embarrass you in front of all these people. It's like, she has no shame. She doesn't care. She'll embarrass him in front of all those people.
Uh-huh. Dujak's Unton guards not acknowledging Whiskey Jack. I laughed in the moment, and then I was thinking back to, well, they're probably not supposed to salute anyway, but his reaction was pretty funny.
I think his assumption is that at least to him, they should show something. It's like, okay, well, carry on, fellas. It's just like, oh, it's like, wow, okay.
Not a nod, nothing.
Nothing.
Learning more about Lassine's plans for how to deal with all the issues that keep cropping up on the various continents where the Malazan Empire is engaged.
I'm really coming to respect her a little bit more because she's obviously knows what's going on here more than I do as far as the long-term planning and knowing what's going on with the war. She's got something going on here. I don't know what's going on, but I respect her, and she is really something else, man.
Yeah, it's an unenviable position to be in.
Yeah.
Some people think they want it.
Very.
But then it's just a lot to deal with.
Oh, my word. Yeah. Awful.
The mystery of a random Tist Edur appearing out of nowhere, seemingly crushed by great pressure.
Super strange. And talk about some foreshadowing. Gee whiz. That's a long shot of foreshadowing.
Yeah. Learning that Mienus may be a gateway to Kurald Emerlon. I thought that was an interesting way of describing that relationship.
Yes, it is. And I don't know if it's any better than what we've heard before, but it seems to be somewhat more descriptive, and I'm glad for that.
And then finally, seeing Perrin beginning to master his abilities. Really like seeing that. It's almost like the Spider-Man waking up and learning how to climb the wall and shoot his webs and getting more proficient.
It's exactly what it is. Yes, it's the moment where he realizes, dude, okay, this is going to be cool. It's going to be all right. And I'm like you. I'm really looking forward into part 2 on this one, where we start looking deeper into this.
Oh, yeah. All right, great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, really great episode. Really enjoyed that.
You got any final thoughts before we drop off here?
Man, I just completely forgot that crushed test endurance showed up here. I knew it was showing up in the book some point, but I just couldn't remember when. But it's still so weird. I'm still shocked now that it ties together so well. It just blows me away, dude. I'm still just blown away by the masterfulness of Mr. Erikson. Fantastic stuff.
That's great. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
And we'll see y'all next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.